April,
Yes, Lauren?
welcome to our kitchen.
Well, I live here, so.
We're cooking today.
Oh, them.
The camera is all set up.
What are we cooking?
Okay, I lied. We're not cooking.
Okay, that's what I thought.
We're brewing. We've been brewing for weeks.
Brewing. Hashtag brewmasters. Just kidding. We don't have a lot of experience.
Disclaimer. If you're our soon-to-be 13-year-old cousin,
If I did the math right.
we think,
yeah.
you're not allowed to make hard cider.
Yeah.
If you're our 2-year-old nephew, you're not allowed
Definitely
to make
not
cider.
allowed to make
But
hard
if you're one
cider.
of our adult viewers, over 21 in the US, over 19 or 18 in other countries,
And you're interested in brewing your own cider.
this is your video. So,
Now, I'd just like to say, before we started filming, Lauren asked who was going to be the expert in this video.
which is funny because it's neither of us.
But let's tell you our qualifications. A couple years ago, our brother and I did successfully brew some cider.
That was delicious.
And it was great. And we filmed videos. I filmed videos while we did it, so we referred back to them when we made this cider. And Lauren, tell your qualifications. You read a bunch, right?
Well, I read a bunch, and also when I was 9, I tried to make
Oh, right.
dandelion wine in the garden shed,
I was involved in that too.
which I used to trap slugs. It was successful.
Yes, we successfully made the wine. Don't worry, we didn't drink it. Kids, don't
smelled
drink
terrible.
home-brewed dandelion wine, but it's a great slug repellent
Especially if you made it next to a can of gasoline.
for the garden. Yeah.
All right, April.
So
Let's get brewing.
get to the intro. Okay, now let's get brewing, Lauren.
Great.
Because I'm really excited to share this project with everyone.
All right, so
What do we need?
we're gonna do this in 3 stages.
3 stages.
What's the first stage?
Stage 1, start your cider.
Fermentation.
Yes.
So you need a 1-gallon container. This one actually was one that some apple juice was sold in, so that's a nice cheap way to get
Some
them.
grocery stores sell those, and then you can use the apple juice to brew your cider, and you can use the jug to brew it in.
Yes, very, very easy way to do things.
Yeah.
Otherwise, buy one. Local homebrew stores actually are sometimes cheaper than online because they're not trying to ship glass.
Yeah.
So, anyways, one of those. Apple juice.
Yeah.
What you're looking for is apple juice that doesn't have anything added besides absorbic acid or vitamin C.
Ascorbic?
Ascorbic acid.
Ascorbic.
It can be from concentrate. It can be fresh pressed.
Yeah. 100% apple juice.
It can even be frozen. Then you need something to sanitize everything with. Sanitation is very important when you're brewing. We're using a food safe sanitizer that doesn't need to be rinsed, which is really useful.
Starsan!
One Step is another brand. There's also other methods of sanitizing, like heat sanitizing.
Yes.
So find one that works for you. We're gonna need some yeast. We are using a sparkling wine yeast. I wanna say Premier Blanc from Red Star. What you're looking for is a ale yeast or a wine yeast or a sparkling wine yeast, or even a specialized cider yeast. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Don't worry, like you can make cider with non-cider yeast.
Yes.
It's
What I have
this
heard
is relatively universal.
is that bread yeast doesn't taste very good.
Yeah, don't do that.
So I would
Get some kind of brewing yeast.
Yeah. This goes really far. We can technically make 5 gallons with this one packet.
Yeah. So we divide it between them.
All right.
Okay, so that's what we
Then-
need. Oh,
Funnel
yes.
and a airlock. There's 2 kinds of airlocks. We've used them both. What we found is that we really like this kind because they're easier to clean out if you have an overflow.
Sometimes, yeah. It shouldn't happen, but
Yeah.
like in our mead, this one overflowed. This will be a lot easier to clean out than the type of airlock that's like a tube that goes around. Oh, okay.
Sorry, just getting right into it.
So what we're doing here is sanitizing this bottle. In this pot is full of water and Star San. It doesn't take very much of this. You dilute it a lot.
Our thing just doesn't fit in the
A
thing.
super easy way to sanitize your big jug is to just put some in and shake it around and dump it out. You can also submerge it, but Lauren, that looks so soapy.
Totally normal. Not gonna taste
Yeah.
soapy at all.
Doesn't taste like anything. Leave that as is.
Star San, if you're using Star San,
dump it out
is
more.
acid based, so it's just a little bit acidic.
Yeah.
All right. Now,
So
oh, sorry. Okay, so funnel, and now what?
juice.
Yep. Whoosh. We're
So
pouring it straight in.
what I would recommend for this is it's 2. These are half gallons. Pour 1 jug in, as Lauren is doing now. Then we're gonna add the yeast.
Now, the yeast is going to have special directions on it that says to dilute it in water first, etc.
You really don't need to do that.
You don't need to do that.
Super easy. Just put half of your liquid in, then put the yeast in, and then put the other half of the liquid.
Now,
So it's really okay to use more yeast than it says. Like it doesn't really matter,
Yes.
but we're gonna estimate like a quarter of the package.
yeah, a quarter to a fifth.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of success with this yeast so far, so I'm not worried even if we use a little less than we're supposed to. It's very imprecise because, April,
Yes.
yeast grows.
Right.
It's a living thing.
The other thing is, if you start your cider and you don't see it starting to ferment, you can add more.
Add more yeast or
Add some raisins.
add some raisins.
Yeah, we read about that and we did it with
They're
our
a great natural
first
yeast
one.
nutrient.
Works fine. So we've put the yeast in there. Clean off the top because you want a good seal. And now we're gonna put our second,
Reached in front of you.
our second thing of juice.
Now, April, are we going to use all of this juice?
It's probably not gonna fit all the way,
Yeah.
and you want to leave a little bit of headspace. I don't know, Lauren.
Now,
it might
April,
fit.
You can put, oh yeah, it does, nice. You can put other fruits or berries in here.
Yes.
They could be frozen, they could be fresh, just make sure they're clean. But we're gonna just stick with plain
regular.
regular
Show you the baseline.
apple cider.
Okay, now what, Lauren?
We put in an airlock.
Are you doubting my hand strength?
The water lets bubbles of gas escape
Here.
without letting oxygen in because oxidization can interfere with the production of the alcohol and the growth of the yeast, and it can introduce off flavors. It can make the color change. So you really want to keep oxygen out of here. All right.
So, I'm gonna go put water in this about halfway up. Okay, so here's this.
So we found putting,
Cork it.
well, we've actually found with these airlocks putting
is
it
it
in
better
first
to put it
is
in?
working. And for whatever reason, they don't work very well until they're dry. So if it's just sitting there atop,
Don't worry too
don't
much.
worry.
It'll dry out and
by overnight, it should
seal.
be settling in.
yeah.
And then you should start to see bubbles coming out the top in a couple days.
Yes.
I'd say if it's 24 hours and you're not seeing any foam at all.
You should be able to see like tiny
little
bubbles
bubbles.
in the liquid coming up, and then eventually it will start blooping at the top.
Yeah. If you're not seeing any, then add a little more yeast or raise the temperature of where it is.
Right. Temperature affects
Yeah.
fermentation. Warmer
And
temperature, faster
You
fermentation.
also might want to set it in a tray or on a plate because
in case it overflows.
we've had some overflows.
like the mead. Or there's a bug or something in there.
there is an ant in that airlock.
It's
It's
gross.
gross.
Oh, see, it burbled. So that's what you'll eventually see.
Yeah.
And I think that segues into the next
Yeah.
step. So this is good to go, and you're gonna leave it
For 2
as-
weeks, usually.
Usually, as long as it takes basically for it to stop bubbling
Completely.
you'll know then that the fermentation is complete and it's eaten all the sugars basically.
All right, let's set up for the next step.
Great.
So here's part 2 and 3 combined because what we realized is that all 5 of our jugs,
Carboys.
carboys, are now being used.
And we were going to show you racking, but that would require us putting this cider into a new fresh carboy, which we won't have until we bottle
Now, racking can be your last step if you like flat cider, if you don't want it carbonated.
For some weird reason.
And racking is just siphoning the cider out of the jug without disturbing the sediment on the bottom. The sediment ends up looking like this.
Why did we save the sediment in a jar, you ask?
Well, that's all the yeast that's fallen out of the cider after it's grown. So what you can actually do is pour that into a sanitized glass jar, let it settle, pour off the extra liquid, and then we could actually use this to get a new cider started instead of the yeast. At that step 2, we'd just pour like maybe a third of this in.
It's like using old yogurt as a yogurt starter.
Or sourdough.
Yeah.
So that's a great way to save money.
Right. So racking is basically a secondary ferment.
Yeah. And you'll see how to...
But you can also skip racking and go straight to bottling.
Yes.
If you don't want to do a second ferment, you don't have to.
Yeah. It can improve the flavor and it makes it a clearer cider.
Yeah.
And if you're doing a long-term aging in the jug, like for a couple months, then you would want to rack it before you do that aging so that it's... Because the sediment can also give it like some bitter flavors.
Yeah.
And you'll see how to do the siphoning during step 3.
Yes.
When we bottle.
Yes. So
step 3.
Step 3, bottling.
What do we need for bottling? We need a little extra equipment.
Right.
So this has been racked. We have a note on when we started it. This one.
It's really helpful to put notes of what you put in the cider so that you know later, what you liked and what you did and what,
So we always put what kind of yeast we used, what kind of juice we used, whether we added anything special,
how long,
the date,
Yeah.
So this is very simple,
this.
but once again, we want everything sanitized.
Right.
So we are going to need some bottle caps.
Can we put them in a container so that I don't have to reach into the bottom of the thing every time to get them out?
Are these clean? These are clean. Right? Yeah, I'll use a cute little soup container.
Great.
So these, you don't want used bottle caps. No. You got to buy new. They're not very expensive.
You need a good seal. It's just metal.
You also need a bottle capper. Sometimes you can borrow one from a friend. Sometimes a grandparent has an antique one sitting around. Those are fun. They got a big lever.
Yep.
Or they're about like $16 online.
Yeah, it's not
for
super
this
expensive.
Style.
So, bottle capper.
Sanitize everything.
Caps. A siphon. You can skip having a siphon by just using a funnel and pouring from the jug into each bottle.
But you have to be very careful not to disturb the sediment.
Right.
You might want to do, a racking first.
Yeah.
And we have a siphon that has auto pump, an auto siphon attachment, which does make it way easier, and a bottling attachment. You can do this with just the flexible hose. That's like $2. It's just a little more finicky to do. Yeah, but I mean, finicky's fine.
Yeah, we work with finicky. Okay. So here's bottles. We saved these
from some beer we drank.
Yeah.
It can be really handy to have a bottle brush around to clean out bottles. Otherwise, just wash them right after you drink the beverage.
Yeah, so that they don't get gross stuff stuck in them.
And then later you can soak off the label, and then you'll have a great plain.
It's nice. These had labels that were like easy to peel off. So sanitize your bottles by submerging them, filling them. Well, you don't have to fill them all up, but you can shake it. Just make sure that the whole, interior and exterior of the bottle has been sanitized.
Yep.
And again, it's okay for that foam to be on there. So if you don't know, the bottling part is how cider gets carbonated, because you're sealing in the cider for another fermentation, which we'll talk about is you achieve that by adding sugar.
Priming sugar.
Yeah, what fermentation is the yeast eating the sugar, right?
Yeah. And then it creates CO2, which is what escapes out of these airlocks.
Right.
But we are gonna trap it in.
We're gonna trap it in so that it'll be forced back into the cider, and that's how we create carbonation.
Which is
I don't know how they do it in like soda water, but
now a lot of videos you'll see at this step people measuring the sugar and alcohol content of the cider and calculating their priming sugar and all that. We're doing a really simple formula. The cider is totally fermented to dry, which means there's no remaining sugars in it that the yeast can eat. And then we're gonna add a teaspoon of sugar to each 12-ounce bottle. And that's gonna give us a medium carbonation and a dry cider.
yeah.
We're not gonna,
we like.
You might read about like temperature crashing things and things. We're not gonna do any of that unless
We
we
just
have
don't care.
bottles that start to explode, I guess.
Right.
So, one level, I heard some people say heaping, but I don't trust myself to measure a heaping
Oh, that
teaspoon
worked. Great.
per bottle.
Honestly, this is helpful because it will break some of the bubbles from the
Yeah.
star sand.
Some people mix sugar into the whole batch. I just didn't trust myself to get it like fully,
Combined.
yeah,
And
dissolved.
since you're trying to leave the sediment at the bottom, you're not like shaking it up or
Exactly.
anything. What you can do is pour the cider off gently into a pitcher,
and
mix the
then-
sugar in,
Yeah.
use a funnel, and
You've done that
pour it.
before.
That's how Nathan and I did it,
Okay, great. So
I think.
there we go. I got all of those. Yep.
Yep. So now we're going to use this fun contraption.
Now the thing about April.
Yes. What, Lauren? What?
Why are these here?
They were in the box.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder what.
I told you weren't listening.
I'm sorry.
It's fine.
The thing about siphons is they use gravity to work.
So you want the end where the liquid's coming from to be higher than the end where it's going.
Is this gonna work, do you think? Yeah, that'll work.
Or you can just put this up on something,
Oh, that's an idea.
like the microwave.
Yeah, pull the microwave out.
Okay.
We're gonna make do.
Hang on. Okay, so we have now raised this cider up
Higher.
than the bottles.
Yep.
Lower.
So our auto siphon comes in two parts. We want to start with the little bendy arm extended. Take that lid off, April.
Oh, it's stuck in there good.
This is helpful to have a two people to do.
Yeah. So we're inserting this in here.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to go all the way to the bottom because, as we said, that's where the sediment is. Although we racked
Yep.
this, so it doesn't have a lot,
And then this is a bottling tip with a spring on it.
which is great because you press it in the bottom and it goes, but once you lift it, then the flow will stop.
Yep.
Which is really helpful
it'll
to go
leave
between
Just
bottles.
enough room at the top.
Yeah.
So, let's
So
go. There you
here it goes.
Okay. So our bottle is filling up. Oh, we should have gotten like a light behind it so you can see.
That would have been cool.
And I'm gonna pay attention.
I don't even have my phone.
Because it will.
Yeah. And
overflow.
how much headspace are we leaving,
Well,
Lauren?
so it's about an inch, but the handy thing about these bottle fillers is that you can actually fill all the way to the top. And then when you lift
because
out, we are gonna
the
get some star sand, but
amount that it.
yeah, so
yeah.
that needs just a little more.
It's fine.
Here we go. And I'll wipe the cap nice and
Okay.
clean.
Now this is the super fun part.
All right, April,
Who
go for it.
doesn't love sanitizing? So this kind of capper has a magnet here.
Mhm.
Caps are metal. You stick it in there and it stays. Then you position it over the bottle
Good positioning. Okay.
like this, and then you cap it.
Oh wow.
Leverage.
April, could we make our own soda this way? Like
Yes.
ginger ale?
Totally.
Root beer?
We're planning to make. We got ginger in our grocery order today. We're gonna make ginger ale. Kombucha, although you don't need these for kombucha. You
This
can
is
just
gonna sit out
use just cans.
room temperature
Yes.
for like a week.
Yes.
Then we'll chill it,
Yes.
and then we'll drink it.
Yes.
You could also, if you want it to taste a little better, leave it in the bottle for a couple months.
Yeah. You can let it age for a while in there,
Age improves.
but you need to wait at least a week for the carbonation.
So,
So let's do the rest of these.
all right, April.
Little montage.
So there we go, a 6-pack of hardest cider. We might have gotten 7, but our jug was not super full.
Yes.
We're gonna let this sit a week, then we'll do a taste test. We'll probably put that on Instagram.
Probably our
Follow-
Instagram.
Follow
Here
that.
it is. This is what it is.
And we're just gonna keep at it with the cider. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll do a mead video at some point.
Tell us if you make cider,
Tell us that, absolutely.
because that's the fun
Tell
part.
us if you live in our area and have an orchard and a cider press and want us to make use of it.
We'd
Also,
love to.
like
Comment
and
and
subscribe because it really helps us out. Only if you like the channel, of course. If you hate the channel, you can still comment, I guess.
Yeah,
but
comment
don't
what
be
you
super
don't
mean.
like about it.
Just
Just
some
constructive criticism.
Yeah,
You know,
constructive-
there's a thumbs down button that
or
you could make
constructive
use of.
compliments.
Yes, please.
Oh, this is the thing I was gonna say. If you did get the sugar wrong, or you just guesstimated, or your cider is still fermenting or something, these could explode. So
Yeah.
put them in a place where you don't mind some broken glass and apple juice.
Yes.
All right,
Like in a bin
a bin is a good thing.
with
Yeah.
tall enough sides.
And a heavy
Set
lid.
away somewhere.
All right,
Yeah. Okay.
bye.
See you next time.